Hi, this is just a summary of a research we have just published in a well-known review. It's called Sustainability. It is in the journal Citation Report, and the title of this article is Improvement of Memory and Motivation in Language Learning in Primary Education through the Interactive Digital Whiteboard: The Future in a Post-Pandemic Period. The authors of this article are Professor Dr. José Manuel Bautista Vallejo from the University of Huelva. Also, I am the second author, Rafael Hernández-Carrera from the Universidad Internacional de La Rioja, and two other colleagues from the University Rey Juan Carlos, Ricardo Moreno Rodríguez and José Luis López Bastias. So, this paper presents analysis of the use of an interactive digital whiteboard and a computer application called Action Manager with a sample of 158 sixth grade students in a primary education school. Subsequently, a study was carried out with the main goal of testing the didactic functioning of Action Manager and examining the validity of this application in terms of motivation and the retention of both short and long-term memory when teaching foreign languages in primary education. In order to fulfill these objectives, we performed a positivist exploratory study based on a quantitative methodology combining qualitative aspects, qualitative evaluation, and quantitative aspects, questionnaires, as well as a descriptive method with a survey design. The data collection was performed using instruments, specifically the Extrinsic versus Intrinsic Orientation Scale, to ascertain the motivational impressions of the students, and two memory tests, the test of memory and the learning, TOMAL, and children memory scale. 45 days later, the two memory tests were repeated to compare the results with the previous ones. After this experience, the results allow us to conclude that the students demonstrated optimal memorization from a conceptual point of view, and in addition to having improved their motivational impressions. First, we make an introduction talking about the ICT, how we apply the ICT to foreign language learning, and also the impact of this kind of tools during the pandemic for COVID, coronavirus, and also we make a theoretical framework explaining the advantage and disadvantage of ICT inclusion in education. Also, we talk about the interactive digital whiteboard in language teaching, as well as the interactive digital whiteboard through Action Manager. The Action Manager is a type of software in which students participate to obtain the highest possible score in a card game where the players have to discover two equal pairs, and during the game, students, individually or in groups, take turns picking cards until they find two of a kind. When two of the same are found, an animation is started explaining the meaning of the text inserted in the card. Then the student must perform the same action as the one represented through an animation and say the word imitating the intonation heard. The pair of cards that has coincided will disappear from the screen, thus continuing with the same dynamic until the completion of a total 8 pairs of cards. This is the Action Manager software most important issues. Also, we talk in the framework, the theoretical framework, about the memory about the semantic memory, and also about the episodic memory and the procedural memory, the automatic memory, as well as the emotional memory, and finally about the audio and visual memory, in order to make a first approach to different kind of memories. Okay. Concerning the materials and the methods, the research methodology, as I said before, was mixed, combining qualitative aspects and quantitative aspects. The objectives of this research were to test the didactic functioning of Action Manager, and also to analyze the validity of Action Manager in terms of the following aspects: motivation and short and long-term memory retention. How is the retention in terms of short and long-term memory? So participants, the selection of the sample was made for the sake of convenience, as the participants were readily available for test application reasons before the experience was completed. In this sense, 76 male and 82 female students in the 6th year of primary education from 3 different educational centers in the city of Huelva were chosen. So this group was named the innovative group. On the other hand, information was able to be collected on 47 additional students with the same characteristics who followed a traditional language teacher learning methodology. This group was named traditional group. So, concerning procedure and the instruments for data collection and statistical analysis, in the framework of the evaluative research, in which the objective was to gather information about the intervention, its functioning, and its effects and consequences, a 50-minute session was developed in which the first 10 minutes were used to show the application and to understand the 8 actions to be learned. Once this was accomplished, 2 groups were made and game was played, which lasted 15 minutes. The rest of the session was dedicated to administration and collection of the test questionnaire, a questionnaire to ascertain the motivational impression of students with simple and direct language. Specifically, we are talking about the Extrinsic versus Intrinsic Orientation Scale was applied, and it consists of 30 items that allow us to evaluate the degree of motivation presented by a student, and 2 memory tests, TOMAL and CMS. 45 days later, the 2 memory tests were repeated to compare the results with the previous ones. The traditional group followed a conventional session for 15 minutes, where the English word for 8 actions were taught. They were evaluated on this vocabulary at the end of the session. 45 days later, the 2 memory tests were repeated to compare the result to the first evaluation. The differences between the traditional group and the innovative group were exclusively analyzed with regard to memory, performance, and motivation. So, a statistical analysis of the data was performed with the SPSS V20 for Windows, performing parametric tests due to the sample size. Moreover, a comparative analysis of frequencies was done in order to study the modification of percentages of responses obtained. Concerning the results of our study, the result of the study have been divided into different areas. On the one hand, the motivational aspects, and on the other hand, the impact on memorization in relation to learning aspects of the learning of English as a foreign language. In relation to the motivational aspects, 70.88% of the participants from the innovative group stated that they enjoyed the activity very much, and 23.41% said that they enjoyed it a lot, which point to a good group motivation towards the activity. Of the traditional group, 27.65% stated that they enjoyed the activity very much, 40.42% enjoyed a lot, 19.14% intermediately enjoyed it, 8.51% enjoyed it a little, and 4.25% did not enjoy it at all. So, furthermore, the participants were asked if they had been distracted during the performance of the task, to which 70.25% responded that they had not been distracted at all, 17.7% indicated that they had been a little, and 12.2% respond that they have been quite distracted. With regard to emotional memory, the action memory application enables fun or enjoyable activities in a relaxed and safe environment. This is achieved thanks to its dynamic and entertaining methodology. In this sense, and according to the organizational flexibility related to this application, a degree of emotional activation was made possible according to the state dependence. With regard to the memory test, the impact of memory is even greater 45 days later, where the score obtained at the end of the activity compared with the follow-up period are improved by 20 percentage points. The test consisted on a meme where the student had to mark their written representation from a total of 7 action words: hiccups, hiss, scream, jaws, stretch, and 4 of them were selected at random, identical in the 2 moments of the evaluation: hiccup, hiss, yawn, stretch. A student's t-test was used to compare the scores obtained by the same sample at 2 different times. And statistical significance was obtained in 3 of them. So the results obtained with the traditional group were different, under the same condition as the innovative group. The memory points obtained at the end of the activity show that 65.9% answered correctly, but in the follow-up evaluation, the percentage dropped to 59.9%. Students' t-test to compare the obtained score in both moments was used too. Of the 4 randomly chosen words, stretch, hiss, hiccup, and yawn, not one significant difference was found between the post-activity evaluation and the follow-up. So, concerning the conclusions, this experience allows us to conclude that the inclusion of ICT, which are especially useful in language learning, should be called upon to play a fundamental and growing role in the teaching learning processes, either in person or predictably after a change in the trend caused by the COVID pandemic online. These are the basis of the new educational paradigms, which are more focused on the consolidation of learning within the framework of the common name smart classroom. The interactive digital whiteboard has gradually become one of the most comprehensive and innovative resources for teaching, thanks to its touch interface connected to a computer. Part of this versatility is due to the possibility of bringing together other valuable components to generate dynamism in the classroom, such as software and peripheral devices, whether or on-site remotely. Motivation in Action Manager is determined by several factors that facilitate its activation. The use of ICT images and sounds are, striking or appealing, non-routine activity, competition by groups and objectives to be met to get the greatest number of pairs. So, in our opinion, in relation to memory retention, we conclude that Action Manager contributes significantly to improving memorization, and shown by the 20% point increases after 45 days. In short, we are facing the possibility of improving motivation, attention, and the avoidance of distraction and memorization skills of a student through Action Manager in a gamified environment, in a very important way. The application of strategies supported by ICT, such as in the case of Action Manager, in which a high degree of involvement by students who participate in the activity from the perspective of play, has been detected and seems to favor language learning. In fact, I think that this fact can be generalized to education at home as a consequence of the confinement derived from COVID-19, since it also incorporates elements of the universal design of learning. So thank you very much, and you can get the article and read it with all the tables and figures and the statistical analysis. That's all. Thank you very much.